was a great expansion once we don't have to crystallize or concretize around a particular way of understanding something. When we realize that all words, all symbolic language is limited. If the story about coming down from the trees is offensive to you, I just invite you to make an inquiry around that, because I don't need that story to convince you of anything that I think you need to understand, right? We get to leave that kind of thinking behind. That's religious fundamentalism. You can be a religious fundamentalist as a scientist. Audience is a friend, and I cultivate this friendship with my audience, and hopefully that's conveyed to you in this art form, in this particular form of communication. Traveling Trav here on a very twisty road. Picture for you here. There it is. Very twisty road. We see deep time in the canyons. And with some kind of grasp on deep time, or even just an approach to understanding what 13.8 billion years is like, or what was the progression, what is our best understanding, big picture, general overview of how this all progressed. And there are all these different disciplines, physics being on the leading edge of, in the physical world, trying to understand the true nature of reality. Einstein said something to the effect that even the layman physicist, even one who is not going to make his way with physics, should take the time to look into this. He was quite disturbed whenever it was discovered that a particle on one side of the universe could affect the spin of a particle on the other side of the universe instantaneously, faster than the speed of light. He called that spooky action. He did not like that, as far as I understand. It was disturbing to him. The quantum realm shows us that cause and effect are not nearly as linked in all realms of reality. We are to understand that Newtonian physics can get us to the moon, as they say, yet it cannot describe the movement of everything. And so we began to seek a unifying equation. God bless our hearts. When was it? 1860 or so? 59, 60, when Darwin revealed the tree of life to us. He said, look guys, I didn't want to tell you this. I knew it was going to upset you. I knew it was going to rock the boat in a big way, and I've actually been quite sick over this. I have a sensitive nature, don't like the sight of blood, and I'm telling you this is disturbing, okay? And he helped us to start peering back on the evolution of consciousness itself, as it disturbed so many to think that we had come down from the trees somehow. We were under the impression that it was a static world in which we inhabit. Right? Can you imagine that? I can't imagine that, because evolution was fascinating to me, and I felt some kind of sacrament, some kind of just elegance. And as I aged and studied more, it became more fascinating. Oh my God. And as one takes into oneself that in this physical realm, it appears along this timeline, or this time circle perhaps, that we somehow all came from the same branch, from a single cell organism somehow, that we were born of water. And then still we have to deal on a materialist level, though, we still have to deal with biogenesis itself. You know, what we consider to be inert, unintelligent matter somehow at some point organizes itself, or is organized, and there is the rub for many of us. It's difficult for us to grasp, you know. We want to argue about it. It's because what we're peering into is the nature of the eternal, or we're wrestling, you know. What was it? After Jacob wrestles with God, he asks for a blessing. And the angel says to him, "You have struggled with man and with God, and you have emerged victorious." This was even after having his hip agitated in a pretty deep way. You ever had your hip touched in a deep way? It's disturbing, I can tell you that. Our hips are so essential in our ambulation. You have struggled with man and with God, and you have emerged victorious, and now your name is Israel. I asked my friend Tim Bentz one, I was like, what's the deal with this chosen stuff, the chosen people? And Tim just said to me simply, "Do you want to be chosen?" I like that response. Do you want to be chosen? Yes, I am chosen. He said, "Well, you're chosen." I said, "If you want to be chosen, you're chosen." And so what is it that we are chosen for, and who is it that is choosing us? These are cool questions, right? What does it mean to be the chosen people? Right? Israel, that's the story of the chosen people. We must somehow be the hero of our own story. We must somehow understand ourselves to be chosen. I think just to walk in this world, I think this is what it means to be the Son of God. I am the chosen one. You have struggled with man and with God, and you've emerged victorious. Now you are the chosen one. So we have microcosm and macrocosm. Yes? We have a tribe, or a people, the people of Israel, and then we have the individual Israel. As above, so below. In this physical realm, we have all of these ego manifestations. Rumi calls it the bubbles. There's the foam on the sea. We are these particular manifestations of consciousness that we call me, I, you, him, her. Yet somehow we as a species evolved in a very close, communal, cuddly, warm, mammalian way, drinking the milk from our mother's breast, while partaking of the fat of her, growing up that way, being held, being nurtured, being taught, and symbolic language now. So, if we can see evolution, then we can understand an evolving faith, even an evolving understanding, a deepening understanding of the Christ nature. If we think life is static, i.e., we don't believe in evolution, if we believe somehow that life is static, then we are static. This is our belief. And we believe we're believing it because we're trying to be good for God. Yet, if God is as grand as we try to imagine Him to be, how could we for very much longer continue using the word Him outside of just understanding that we like to anthropomorphize things? I speak to my vehicles. I speak to my instruments. There is a man here, this one we have called Trav. That man has been very, very intense.
In 10 miles at the roundabout, take the second exit onto North State Route 89A.
Wow. That's quite a view. I don't know if you can see it with the super wide lens on. Everything seems quite far away, but whew, I guess we're getting a chance to see it, huh? It'll be a memory. Ooh, guys. Yeah. Repentance. That process of replacing our old operating system. At some point, we have to abandon cause and effect, right and wrong, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and we must partake of the tree of life. The kingdom of heaven is like a seed that goes into the ground. It ceases to be a seed. It dies. And roots begin to push into the soil, and they begin to consume death, rot, decay, absorbing the nutrients of all life that came before. In our case, it's the sickness, the separation, the isolation, alienation, this belief that we are separate, right? This is the root of all of our suffering, it seems. Is this idea that we're alone and we're afraid. And we have to protect, and we're afraid of not getting what we want, and we're afraid of losing what we have. And this plagues us because we are the smartest, we're the most clever creatures, possibly, that have walked this earth, outside of many theories about alien visitations and oh my gosh, I just really haven't delved into that. But there are those who use those stories. Stories. We are story creatures. And the greatest wisdom traditions tell us that we are not our story. That it is our story, it is our individual story that is our suffering. And if we look at this in a biological perspective, if you think about hunter-gatherers 12,000 years ago and before, functioning as a tribal organism, there's just this collective drive to survive in what we call nature, right? And so we must have understood ourselves more deeply, just organismically. There were the lines, the boundaries that we have with nuclear families. I mean, that had to have been very different as we were coming down from the trees, right? If the story about coming down from the trees is offensive to you, I just invite you to make an inquiry around that, because I don't need that story to convince you of anything that I think you need to understand, right? We get to leave that kind of thinking behind. That's religious fundamentalism on any level. You can be a religious fundamentalist as a scientist. It's all the same. We attach ourselves to a story, and then we defend that story because we're really defending our own insecure ego. Kosonino National Park. Well, I'm enjoying this talk. I've never thought to point the camera outward and just begin speaking to you, but it's nice to have you along for this ride. I've spoken before about the cultivation of audience. For myself, audience is a friend, and I cultivate this friendship with my audience, and hopefully that's conveyed to you in this art form, in this particular form of communication. Hopefully we're able to communicate helpful information to one another. If we can leave behind our egoic insecurity, and we don't any longer have to defend our viewpoints, then learning and growing, it appears to me, is exponential at that point. There's a great expansion once we don't have to crystallize or concretize around a particular way of understanding something. When we realize that all words, all symbolic language is limited in some fashion. There's this word, God, right? Which means something to us. But that word God can only point. It's a finger pointing at the moon. It's not about the finger, right? We don't really know. We're still trying to fathom. I mean, the word God is a placeholder for, oh my goodness, something's happening that we don't understand, that is beyond, that is deeper than the physical. And so when we were hunter-gatherers,
make a U-turn, then turn right onto SR 89A. In 6.4 miles, at the roundabout, take the second exit onto North State Route 89A.
So when we were hunter-gatherers, before we had all of this, what we would now call scientific information, before if this, then that thinking, before logical systems, were consciously invented, I know there was some form of logic, obviously, but I'm talking about, 2,500 years ago with Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, when the logical mind really came into its own, right? And which would go into the scientific revolution, 1600s. So right now we know so much, or at least we have the capacity to gain a general understanding of a whole lot of things, right? And if we have the drive to start making sense of it all, then that drive will, in many instances, will drive us mad, because it's such a big, that's a big thing to try to do, right? If you really want to know, I remember at one point I just wanted to understand what it was to be a human, and so I started tracking back. I started looking back, and then I started looking at philosophers, and I began to understand that the questions that had arisen in me had already been asked. What a delight that was, And I suppose we're supposed to understand this. I guess that's why we get a liberal education, right? That's why we take humanities and philosophy classes, is so that we get some kind of compassion or empathy. This is what art does, is it helps us to see something. There's symbology, it moves us to another, it communicates. The divine is communicated to us. We are spoken through and spoken to. So we realize at some point that whether we are a PhD in physics or a shaman or a preacher or a doctor, we're all just telling these stories. And many of us, the vast majority, seem to agree that love is a thing. And we use that word, and we say that word, and we have all these forms of attachment many times that we call love. And if we make a deep inquiry into what that's like, that's another maddening experience. I mean, forget knowing what God is. Can I love my neighbor? How do I respond when I am hurt, when I feel outcast? Have I ever had murder in my heart? Have I been that angry that I wanted someone to die? What's that like? What's it like to be disappointed by life? What's it like to soar high and to just be very low also? We are gifted. We are gifted. We may experience 1,000 deaths, and we may have a resurrection every time. And we may come to know that our deepest self is the eternal nature, the one being. We are the sacred nature of being. I am. We are. I am. And we're getting over ourselves, which is what the one we call Jesus, he was showing us how to get over ourselves, how to die well, how to love when one is mortally wounded. We are nailed to this universe. Some wisely say that we chose this. I like that. If I chose this life, I'm not a victim of this life. This is what I came here to do. It is said that the search for the authentic self is the same as the search for God. If it is true that the kingdom of heaven is within, that makes a lot of sense. God is not out there, although we may discover God out there, the 1,000 faces of God, 10,000 faces of God, like the Hindu, like us. If we don't know what idolatry truly is in ourselves, we probably really have no idea what idolatry is. And we probably suspect that it's something that other people do. But we all must come to understand what it means to worship the self, or to worship the other, or to put ourselves above people, or to hold ourselves below as a matter of practice, as a matter of unconscious illness. How do we come to know the true self, if not by passing through the gauntlet of that which is false? This is what repentance is. It's forsaking that which has no weight. Forsaking the false, that which cannot really exist in the eyes and the heart of love. The burning of the chaff. My friends, whatever story you're telling yourself, whatever tradition you come from, whatever attachments you have, whatever aversions you may be unaware of, here we are. We all came here together to work this miracle of love. My son is an engineer. He seems to adore the language of calculus. He speaks of it to me, and I understand that there is that language has opened a portal of understanding that he realizes could not come from anywhere but calculus. Oh my goodness. Wouldn't it make sense that these discoveries, these languages that are created, like calculus, that they would be portals? We can call it into the divine, or we could just say the true nature of the universe. Because this is one of the deepest questions. What is the true nature of the universe, right? What is it all made of? Why am I here and not here? Why am I here rather than not here?
In half a mile at the roundabout, take the second exit onto North State Route 89A.
Wow, this is quite a drive, is it not? Oh my God. This is amazing, guys. Oh, I'm in Sedona. Oh my goodness. Okay. That was the drive into Sedona. Oh my goodness, gorgeous. Look at these trees. Oh my gosh. It's so good. You can tell people are just parked here. People are just in this. Oh. Man. Wow. I need to
At the
find a
roundabout,
place.
take the second exit onto North State Route 89A.
I guess I'm going with this flow. Yes, I am the flow. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life.
In a quarter mile at the roundabout, take the second exit onto North State Route 89A.
I am. End navigation.
Okay, I've stopped navigating.
Yes, audience. Who are you? That's one of the big questions, right? Who are you? Who are you? Describe to me who you are. we will inevitably begin describing our actions or things that we like, things that we don't like, stuff that's happened to us possibly, relationships. I'm a father, I'm a brother. This is quite a town, is it not? Look at this place. Wow. What's happening? This is very interesting, guys. I've never really seen anything quite like this before. This town is truly nestled in these towering mountains. Oh my God. It is gorgeous. Truly gorgeous. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my God. I don't want to leave this town. Looks like I'm leaving. There's a roundabout. Can you see that? What is happening here? West Sedona. I need to park and get oriented. I'm gonna go back out of town and find one of those. Where's camping? I need to camp.